Hey everyone, welcome back to another hardware news recap for the week. We are reaching the end of the year, but breaking trend from some of the previous years, there's still product launches coming out. Although, to be fair, Nvidia did slip in an RTX, a Titan RTX, I think, right before Christmas, maybe a year or two ago. But they're still going on this year as well. We're talking about the RX 5500 XT today. Nvidia saying that high FPS equals more better for gameplay. And Dell evaluating AMD as a partner. Rumors about the PS5 and Project Scarlet as well. And politicians spending campaign money on Steam games. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Drop and Hi-Fi Man HE4XX planar magnetic headphones. The HE4XX headphones focus on high-quality audio listening experiences with comfortable foam cushions for the ear cups. Comfort is also ensured with a leather-covered spring steel headband, allowing flexibility and durability against bends. These headphones are capable of delivering big sound for audiophiles while being positioned competitively in price. Learn more at the link in the description below. So quick GN store announcement first is we've got some new Polygon wireframe logo design mugs on the store. They're black exterior, blue interior, and then they have our wireframe Polygon logo that we did on the foil shirt recently. Those are on the store. You can check it out at store.gamesnexus.net. And then also we've restocked the lightweight pullover hoodies with the GN full logo on it. We've restocked the two-tone hoodies, the zipper hoodies, and then we're working on getting more mod mats in. The next round of large mod mats will arrive right after Christmas, so you won't get them in time. If you order a mod mat now, you won't get it before Christmas, but we should be shipping them the last week probably of December, and you'll get them right after that. So if you want to put a back order in, you'll get the next round on store.gamersnexus.net for the large mod mats. Also mediums are coming in then too. All right, so first real news item here is the RX 50. Oh, one final update, sorry. The Eden Reforestation project thing that we did with them through November, we've got an update coming on that as well. Waiting for the final numbers, but it's looking like over 70,000 trees planted through the viewers, through the GN store, through our match, all that stuff. So really good news there, but we'll update you once we have final figures from them along with the statement. All right, the RX 5500 XT. The 5500 has been known for a while. It was an OEM only thing at first, and technically in some parts of the world you can get it through OEMs already, through SIs, but individual availability for DIY has not yet happened. And listings in China make it look like that's going to happen soon. So Twitter user and renowned hardware detective Momomo_US, whom we've cited in a few episodes lately. Momomo, I hope you see these. We obviously appreciate that you are fairly accurate in your rumors. You've been probably the best source for this stuff. So anyway, Momomo US, or us, spotted listings over at a Chinese retailer for the AMD RX 5500 XT from multiple partners. The listings don't offer much in the way of specifications yet, outside of a December 12th alleged availability, and confirming that AIB partners like XFX, Sapphire, and Yeston, our recent favorite, the cute pet box is up there, and the 5700 XT waifu is over there, are all going to be probably launch partners, but definitely partners for the 5500 XT. And although this is a rumor, we typically try to only report on rumors that we have pretty good faith are true. Anyway, next one. AMD's CPU market share on Steam. This is pretty interesting stuff as well. So we've been saying for a while now that looking at our own affiliate sales data through Amazon, things like that, we've noticed that it's about 80 to over 80% of sales volume month to month for AMD lately, which is a complete flip of 2016 or so, or just before Ryzen 1, where Intel was at about 80 to sometimes 99 even. I think there was one month we had in the past when we were doing lower volume overall where Intel was just 100% of movement because FX was the only thing out, and even that was old at that point. So anyway, AMD now over 20% on Steam, which is interesting specifically because Steam's looking at the whole deployment of processors, whereas what we look at month to month is active sales, not what people are still using. So Intel obviously will still dominate there because they're in so many systems for decades now, and especially over the last 10 years or so, there haven't been a lot of changes, so people are still on 2600Ks, 2700Ks, 2500Ks, all fine processors for a lot of things. Anyway, AMD's tide continues to rise here, especially as it relates to Ryzen and CPU market share in the client desktop segment. The most recent Steam hardware survey shows AMD at 20% for processor usage in terms of the market share, where just over 2 years ago, AMD sat at 8% on the Steam hardware survey. AMD has notched another 2% jump since July of 2019, when it launched Ryzen 3000 and sat at roughly 18% usage among Steam users. 6-core CPUs are also at the top of the chart in terms of the biggest bump in adoption, with a 1.46% gain. Steam doesn't break down AMD versus Intel here, as both offer 6-core options. However, it's safe to assume a surge in sales for AMD CPUs have driven this up, and AMD's GPU usage remains around the 15% mark for Radeon versus Nvidia, while also showing the Radeon 5700 and 5700 XT not having gained a lot of ground among Steam users. The RX 580 and 570 are still AMD's top cards. And part of that too is going to be a battle on the driver side. So one of the first rules in business, especially at our scale, I don't know how this applies to AMD, but you find what works and you keep doing that thing. Even if it's not 100% what you want to do, if it gets you enough money to do the things that you want to do later, even if it's at a lower margin, then that's what you keep focusing on. So if this applies to AMD, then the desire to see some AMD CPU money get invested into the RTG is there, but whether or not AMD decides it's worth it, we're not sure, because clearly on one end, if the CPU side's making all the money for the company and RTG is just kind of this, it's not doing quite as much, it's like, well, you can put money into it, but also you can just put all the money into CPUs and drive the thing that's making you the most money further and try to capitalize on that as much as possible before Intel has a chance to catch back up. Because Intel has a ton of money, it can catch up, but time is not on its side in terms of process nodes. So AMD's got some time there before Intel figures things out, and it might be best for them to just keep capitalizing on CPU before they have competition again. So anyway, really interesting stuff. Nvidia says that higher FPS equals more better for kills. And Nvidia recently published a lengthy blog post detailing how frames win games, as I guess they're saying goes. This is from Tony Tomasi, who's been at Nvidia for a long time now. Tom Peterson typically would have sort of spearheaded or showcased a lot of this type of content, but he has moved to Intel. If you didn't know that, he's over there now. Anyway, Tomasi says that gamers should aspire beyond the standard, I guess, of 60 FPS and 60 Hertz, which consoles have mostly popularized, although a lot of them are still 30 FPS. In true NVIDIA fashion, it wasn't exactly the most impartial analysis, but it did a reasonable job, we think, of pleading a case for a higher FPS in gaming by doing some actual tests that seemed reasonably scientific. So that's, I mean, it's, considering it's a company marketing its product, it's not bad that they've done the amount they've done to make this testing actually somewhat useful beyond marketing. NVIDIA was specifically focusing on 240 FPS, and it also worked with Linus recently on a video about this too, on Linus Tech Tips. You can check that out, where they worked with some pro gamers. NVIDIA starts out by outlining the difference between refresh rates and frame rates, which, like NVIDIA states, are often used interchangeably. It then moves on to how a disparity between GPU output and display refresh rates lead to tearing, and how VSync can add input latency. All this is known, but it's a good recap. NVIDIA also took the chance to plug G-Sync here, of course. NVIDIA also makes its case by alleging smoother animations that lead to better target tracking and fewer distractions due to less ghosting. Most interestingly, NVIDIA is arguing for lower system latency at 240 FPS. NVIDIA suggests that 240 FPS or 240 Hertz affects the rendering pipeline and can lead to the rendering being closer to the state of the game if working with that higher frame rate and higher refresh monitors. Quote, starting at the beginning of time, each system's CPU receives the player position at the same time. In this example, the CPU and GPU take approximately the same time to prepare and render the frame. The CPU portion of the frame on the 60 FPS system is 4 times longer than the 240 FPS system. Similarly, the GPU render time is also 4 times longer on the 60 FPS system. Finally, the display section is also 4 times longer on the 60 FPS systems, versus as the refresh cycle is 4 times slower than a 240 Hertz display. And Nvidia continued saying, quote, on a 60 FPS or Hertz system, it simply takes longer to process and is therefore further behind the actual state of the game. At 240 FPS or Hertz, the rendering is much closer to the actual state of the game, but there is still some difference. And if you are interested and want to read more about this, Tomasi is, of course, marketing a product, but also is in engineering. So he does a pretty good job of the write-up. You can check it out on the NVIDIA blog. We've got it linked in our show notes below. Next one, Dell evaluating AMD as a partner amidst Intel shortages, which have somehow managed to make it into probably 50 to 70% of our news videos over the last year and a half or 2 years. Intel's ironclad grip on multiple computing market segments is in no small part due to its partnership with leading OEMs, system integrators, PC builders, and ensuring their designs are based on Intel platforms. This goes back to TDP as well, where AMD's TDP numbers, we haven't really talked about this publicly at all yet, but AMD's TDP numbers, their formula for it actually comes from having to get OEMs on board with their CPUs and not having to redesign the OEM coolers, because OEMs design coolers based on a number rather than actual testing in a lot of instances. So AMD had to build their numbers to match Intel's so that OEMs would work with them. Anyway, it's the OEMs control a lot of the world, even though enthusiast is where a lot of the growth happens in terms of desktop PCs not outright dying. Gaming and enthusiast segment is one of the only ones that's continuously risen over the years. But anyway, OEMs do still control a lot. So Dell is one such partner and has been something of an Intel loyalist for about 35 years now. And while Dell has increasingly introduced more AMD-based designs, the company is finally looking at introducing more partnership with AMD because of the Intel shortages for 14 nanometer. According to Yahoo, which is still in business, Dell's potential change in tune stems from the company's most recent quarter, where it saw a 6% decline in consumer PCs and a 16% decline in servers. Dell CFO Tom Sweet confirmed to Yahoo, which exists, that Dell is evaluating AMD chips and expects Intel's shortage to extend all the way into the second half of 2020. Relatedly, in another news item, Yahoo is still in business. Moving on to the next one, rumor. PS5 and Xbox Scarlet allegedly using Samsung NVMe SSDs. We do try to label rumors rather boldly and obviously when we're not too certain of them, like this one, but some of them, maybe even in this video, we don't label as that because we're pretty sure about them. Both Sony and Microsoft have confirmed that their next consoles, the Xbox Project Scarlet and the Sony PS5, are moving to solid-state storage. Beyond that, though, details regarding the storage systems have been scarce, aside from the liberal use of the term, quote, next gen, because that's what SSDs are. However, at the Samsung SSD forum in Tokyo, it was heavily implied that Samsung could very likely be the vendor of choice for Sony and Microsoft. During a presentation, Samsung called attention to a particular slide mentioning the era of SSDs in consoles for 2020. The slide then illustrates a quote, optimized NVMe SSD delivering superior system boot times and game launches when compared against a hard drive and a SATA SSD. The slide doesn't mention an interface or PCIe SIG certification or specification. We would assume PCIe 4.0 is in order, but they don't technically say it. This is doubly so because both consoles are using AMD Ryzen silicon, custom silicon, and depending on what they're on, it should support PCIe 4, but we'll see. Anyway, last one is kind of amusing, but sad. Politicians spent campaign money on Steam games. Yes, that's right. We've been validated now because we are in the mainstream. That's what this means. The Congressman Duncan Hunter, who was charged with misappropriating more than $150,000 in campaign funds, a U.S. politician, has pleaded guilty to doing this. The siphoned funds were used for campaign mainstays like Steam sales and plane tickets for rabbits. I'm serious, look it up. Quote, as detailed in the indictment, the Hunters stole money from the campaign for items as inconsequential as fast food, movie tickets and sneakers, as trivial as video games, I'm triggered, Lego sets and Play-Doh, as mundane as groceries, dog food, and utilities, and as self-indulgent as luxury hotels, overseas vacations, and plane tickets for their family pet rabbits, Egbert and Cadbury. all while their family was otherwise deeply in debt, reads the press release. It was previously implied that as much as $1,302 was spent on Steam games. We currently can't confirm whether Hunter bought them on a Steam sale or paid full price like a pleb. Eric wrote that. Thank you, Eric. That was a good line. Okay, so that's going to be it for this news recap. That last one, oh man. Well, what I really wonder is how much was funneled through Epic Games and the Epic Games Store as a means of recirculating or laundering the money through Fortnite items. That's what I really want to know, because people don't have their eye on the Epic Games Store yet, but they know what Steam is. And once Epic Games Store reaches I'm being told that it's already mainstream. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. Go to store.gamersnexus.net to pick up any of our items that we've restocked or backward to the mod mats. Toolkits are still in stock, though we're actually getting really low, or less than 1/10 of what we had originally, selling out pretty quickly there. But more on order, and you can also go to patreon.com/gamersnexus if you'd like to get some behind-the-scenes videos. We've uploaded a Patrons Ask GN just recently and have another one coming up. We'll see you all next time.